Restrictive covenants were legally binding agreements that were often used to enforce racial segregation and discrimination in the United States. Restrictive covenants originated in the late 19th and early 20th centuries and were often included in property deeds or neighborhood agreements. Many restrictive covenants contained explicit language that prohibited property sales to individuals of certain racial or ethnic backgrounds, particularly African Americans. These covenants became more widespread in the early 20th century, especially in response to the Great Migration, as white homeowners sought to maintain racially homogeneous neighborhoods. Courts often upheld restrictive covenants, making them legally binding and enforceable through legal action. Many homeowners associations and neighborhood groups actively promoted and enforced these covenants as a means of segregating communities. Local and state governments, as well as the Federal Housing Administration, FHA, often supported and even required the use of restrictive covenants in housing developments. The practice of redlining, which involved designating predominantly non-white neighborhoods as risky for mortgage lending, was closely tied to the use of restrictive covenants. In 1948, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Shelley v. Kramer that courts could not enforce racially restrictive covenants. This decision was a significant legal blow to the use of such agreements. The Civil Rights Act of 1968, also known as the Fair Housing Act, made it illegal to discriminate in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, effectively ending the use of restrictive covenants for racial segregation. While racially restrictive covenants are no longer legally enforceable, their legacy still affects housing patterns and disparities in many American cities, contributing to ongoing racial segregation and disparities in wealth and opportunity. The history of restrictive covenants is a stark reminder of the systemic racism that has shaped the housing landscape in the United States and continues to have lasting effects on housing inequality and racial segregation.